Hello, everybody. It's time for another episode. And today we don't have Matt. We have a special guest.
Hi. Hello.
This is Kate, and we are going to be talking about a book.
Yeah.
A girly book, which is why Matt is not here.
Yeah.
Sans Matt. So, without further ado, I think we should just get into it.
Yeah, let's do it.
So, hi, I'm Rachel.
Hi, I'm Kate, and I am beyond excited to be here. I've been thinking about this all week. I have read, so can I say what we're going to read?
Yeah, if you want to.
Okay. Or do you want to?
You could go ahead. Go on, Kate.
Okay. let me just take over the show. So it was A Court of Thorn and Roses by Sarah J. Maas, and I love this book so much, and I am so glad that Rachel decided to take it on too, and that she actually liked it enough to be like, "Do you want to talk about this?" Because yes, I do.
Then let's get started. So, Welcome to the Strange and Beautiful Book Club.
Pause.
Yeah, I just have to pause for a minute. I'll put the theme song
How
in
long
later.
does it take you to edit them?
Depends on how off topic we get.
Sure.
And how much Matt smacks the table.
Is it hot in here, or is it just me tuning in to hear these three chatting about fantasy novels of the spicy variety? Not your average book club, if you know what I mean. Are you happy to see us? Or is that a dagger? It's feast, sheath, shatter. It's feast, sheath, shatter.
Well, where would you like to start?
You can just start at the beginning.
Okay. Well, drawing a blank now.
That's why.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's funny because when I was thinking about what this would look like, I was like, well, what should we talk about? And I sent Rachel all these questions. So I guess we should just maybe go through the questions.
Let's do it.
So first, starting off, give me your general take on this book.
So I just read A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Brigid Kemmerer. And the setup is almost exactly the same.
Interesting. Which one was written first?
I'm not sure, but it's very Beauty and the Beast
Yeah.
to start with. And hers is a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, but definitely we veer pretty quickly, which I was thankful for because I'm okay with the same setup as long as we take it to a different place.
Yeah. I've actually seen this book compared to Beauty and the Beast, which in some ways, I think when I think of what Tamlin, who's one of the main characters, looks like, I think of Beast but with horns and a little bit scarier. But that's almost it. That's about as far as it goes for me.
We get the dad was wealthy and he lost his money and he ships sink, which is why she goes back at the end of Beauty and the Beast. Like the original story is she sees her father and realizes that they've lost their fortune and she needs to go back. And so I can kind of see the parallels, but really it's not just in that it's like a fairy tale.
Yeah.
And there's a limited range for fairy tales. So if you read enough of them.
Yeah. It's kind of that, what do they call it? The enemies to lovers trope.
Yeah, or it's the
Munchausen.
hero's journey. Like the hero's journey is just like
Yeah.
every story is the hero's journey, right? Star Wars is the classic example of the
Yeah.
hero's journey. Everything. Gilgamesh.
All of them.
They're all the hero's journey. So
Captain America.
there's nothing wrong with the retelling of a story as long as you're retelling it well.
Yeah. Did you feel that with this one?
I did. I really liked her writing. I felt
Okay,
like her
good.
writing was very well done.
Oh, I love that you said that because I think I'm not a great judge of that. But I don't know how to tell if something's good writing or not.
Well, if you like it.
I read a lot, but I'm not sure. I can tell the difference between Ice Planet Barbarians and like a Brandon Sanderson book, kind of.
Well, I liked her prose, I guess. I liked the way she described things. She was very original in the way she described things.
Yep.
So in a lot of ways, it felt like poetic when she was describing certain scenes. And so I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. What did you think about... Well, let's just get into this because, and I will say, I think I said this earlier, but I have read this whole series, and Rachel has just read the first book.
Yes,
So I'm going to
deliberately.
try really hard to not spoil anything and to really go back to the first book. but I do have insight. So I'm really curious. I think that's kind of what's leading the conversation is I want to know what it feels like to have just read the first one.
The first time all over again.
Right.
Yeah.
And because this was that moment for me where I got to read back and go, oh, wow, this was pointing to that and this was pointing to that. And that's why we spent time there. And that's why she said that and all those kinds of things. So it's really cool to be like, so what'd you think about Tamlin?
He's a tool, first of all. Like, he's a tool. And
Okay.
if she ends up with him, I'm going to be pissed because he's no match for her and she just hasn't realized it yet.
Why do you say that? Tell me more about that.
Tell me more.
Say more.
Say more. Okay, first of all, he offers her absolutely nothing. Like, the only reason that she falls in love with him is because he's the first character in the book that just gives her space.
Or anything other than Isaac.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Isaac really just, they were there for each other, but not in a romantic sense. Just in
a physical escapism, disassociative kind of way.
Right. She needed a thing that was just for her, and Isaac was there, and he was convenient.
Yeah.
And when Tamlin takes her, really that's it. Like, that's the only deliberate action he really does, is he takes her out of that situation, takes her back to his castle, and then is kind of like, okay, now stay here till you love me.
I agree. And I think some real like personal growth happened for me in reading this the first time. Because I think I definitely fell into like, oh, the love story. And then reading it a few more times, realizing that actually he was kind of toxic in a lot of ways.
Yes.
Like really withholding, didn't tell her the truth. I know he couldn't give her truth, but they could have at least been vulnerable or something other than...
he can't tell her the direct truth, but like a hallmark of the Fae is supposed to be the ability to like twist words and convey information, or like, I mean, he's supposed to be smarter with the way that he does stuff, and he just...
He's like so non-active. Like, so
he's just kind of like, well, if you listen to enough of my conversations, maybe you can put this shit together. I mean, he's not...
He definitely feels burdened. Like, everything feels like a really big burden. Like, the burden of leadership, the burden of the curse, the burden of her...
Yeah, and he's so lonely and sad.
And so I'm just going to do nothing. I'm going to sit around and wait for the 7x7 amount of time to run out. The 49 years.
Yeah. I have a lot of problems with Tamlin. And then in the whole second half of the novel, he does fuck all. I mean, she shows up and she's like, I'm here to claim my love. And he's like,
I won't look at you so she doesn't know I feel.
I kind of wish you wouldn't. Like, it's just kind of... I mean, really, she would have died without the other characters that supported her in the second half of the novel. And I'm really not sure where Tamlin would have fallen on that. I mean, he sends her off, right?
Right.
Which on the surface feels like this grand gesture. I'm saving your life because, you know, they know who you are now and they're going to come for you, or they're going to... Because he knows his time is almost up. So he sends her back to the human world, knowing that in a little while he's going to have to go to serve the
Amarantha.
Amarantha, the evil queen lady. And
Under the mountain.
Right.
The mountain.
And eventually she's going to invade the human world. And guess what?
The blight.
Pharaoh's going to die anyway.
Yeah. I don't know. It's so funny. I think with these fantasy novels, it's like you're really able to relate to this story in a way that, I mean, I guess that's what makes a good story, right?
Right.
Is you can relate to this fantasy novel.
Right.
Her stubbornness rings very true for me.
I mean, the author definitely hits kind of the who's who highlight of like, this is your romance hero, guys. This is the one she's supposed to fall in love with. He's handsome. He's strong.
He's broken.
He's broody. He's emotionally unavailable.
His body is super hot.
And then he's completely willing to just like prostrate himself in an effort to save her. So not only is he proud, but he's willing to like be less proud if he has to be or whatever.
Yeah.
So she does a good job of kind of leading us down this path that we've all been down 100 times, and then sort of twisting it at the end where he sends her off, but then when she goes back, he's no longer the hero of the story.
No.
When she goes back. And you kind of expect him to be, but he isn't. And in some ways, he becomes like the negative influence because he's the reason she's there, but he's doing nothing
Nothing
to
at
assist
all.
her. In fact, he almost gets her killed.
Right. Because he wants to do it.
Yeah, because he wants a little nookie.
Instead of like anything other than
Literally
physical
anything
satisfaction.
else. Yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't send her a message through Lucian. He doesn't make any effort to contact her. He doesn't help her. He doesn't.
Yeah,
nothing.
that's why Tamlin gives this. To me, he's that guy that is. He's like, I don't know what I did. I don't know what I did. Well, you didn't do anything.
Right. You didn't do anything. That's the point.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
he's definitely like, I wasn't supposed to be a High Lord, but then but I just had all this privilege or just magical powers. I have so much magic.
I just ended up so strong and
powerful.
powerful and beautiful that
and all my brothers got killed because they were terrible people. So, he ends up in this High Lord position and he doesn't want it. And then he's stubborn and mean to Amarantha, which she deserved it. She was dealing with a lot of big T's from the loss of her sister.
Yeah.
From this awful Jurian guy, eyeball and finger bone.
Yeah.
And, but he just like can't cope. He can't deal. He doesn't know how to move forward. He just dwells. And,
Well, every time he gets to a big decision, he chokes.
Yep.
Every time he's required to do something that's going to be hard, he's like, well, then fuck it.
We're just all going down.
We're just all going
Whole
down.
spring court.
Yeah, he literally doomed the human world, his entire court, and everybody because he was like, I just don't want to deal with this shit anymore. I'm just going to send her home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True that. So why do you think they are in the spring court? I've been thinking about that a lot. Just because it was the southest, the most south.
The most southest.
The most south.
You mean
so
like
right
why is
below
spring
the
quarter
wall.
setting?
Yeah.
Maybe
or
'cause
like
it's
why
like-
Tamlin? How is Tamlin a spring chicken? Like an Aries, a stubborn Aries that doesn't know anything. He's
Yeah.
just like a warrior, but he actually
Young. It could be young, like life,
Yeah.
rebirth, youth, spring.
right. Her first experience with the Fae folk. Let's see. What did you think about the universe, the magic?
I mean, it's pretty underdeveloped in this novel.
Sure.
We do get broad strokes, which I always like because it always feels so much bigger when the author doesn't over-explain anything.
Yep.
So we
You get hints, just a taste.
right.
Yeah.
Which it's good because it makes the world feel bigger. If we
Yeah.
had too much exposition about how everything worked, it would have made it too much.
Yeah, it would have made it too much. So we had mentioned this was one of my last questions I asked you, but kind of wanted to touch on the feminist thing. Like, what were you feeling when you're thinking about like feminism and Farah's character is Farah.
We have a very deliberate part at the beginning where one of her sisters says Farah, and she writes it out phonetically.
Yeah. I was like, oh, I see what you did there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for that aid there.
Yeah, well, and then
Because I was like, fairy?
and I listened to the audiobook a couple times, so it's like Farah.
Yeah.
But like as far as her sisters go and her and then Amarantha, I like something feels weird about it to me, but I'm not sure what it is, and you're really good at that stuff. So
About the feminism?
yeah, and just like I don't know, there's something about books where women are pitted against each other.
Okay, so you'd asked me about feminism in the novel. So one of my biggest pet peeves, generally when an author tries to create a strong female character, is that they make her strong because she's masculine. So I don't like dresses, and I don't like jewelry, and I don't
And
like
I'm
makeup.
a hunter.
And I'm a hunter because...
And I had to learn to kill things.
But she does a very good job of creating a character that is strong, but without having to sacrifice her femininity.
You should read Throne of Glass at some point.
Because it's always frustrating when they're like, well, she's strong because she's like a dude, and dudes are strong.
Right.
But she does a good job of like, I want pants and a shirt because they're practical right now. But when I want to feel pretty, I'm fine wearing a dress.
Yeah. And I still feel pretty in a
Right.
dress.
I don't feel weaker because I'm wearing a dress and there's flowers in my hair. I still feel like a woman. I still feel pretty. I just don't want to wear this every day because I don't want to wear a dress every day.
And it's impractical
And
at
it's
times.
impractical. And she also does a good job of a lot of times when you get these, quote, strong female characters, they hate on every overtly feminine character. So if they come across an overtly feminine character who is extremely feminine all the time, they're usually like, oh, they're weak,
No.
they're stupid.
And there's a respect and adoration. And I'm thinking of Elaine especially.
Yes.
Like she adores both her and Nesta.
Yeah, so she does a good job of, even when there's overly feminine characters, she doesn't judge them for that. The Feyre still respects them and still, can relate to them without having to.
And there's also like, there's nothing wrong with being vulnerable and wanting love and respect and relationships. And you can see Farrah like being challenged by the fact that Tamlin's really disrespectful. She just doesn't really know it. So she's just like, oh, he's an arrogant fairy. But really they're just being like shitheads. Oh, the arrogance. No, they're just like assholes.
No, they're assholes.
Yeah. And what about Lucien? What do you think of Lucien?
I like Lucien better than I like Tamlin.
Yeah.
I feel like Lucian's probably one of those guys that he sees Tamlin as better than he actually is. And I do like Lucien. Usually there's the second guy in romance novels. There's the love interest, and then there's his second in command, his buddy.
Yeah, his pal.
Who usually the female
the foil.
Lead becomes friends with.
Right.
Sometimes as like a jealousy mechanism, sometimes just as like a mirror through which to view the main hero without having to like have the main hero talk.
Right.
Because often they're silent and broody for a reason. Because if we heard them talk too much, we would realize they were assholes.
Awful.
So Lucien definitely plays his role as like, he's the lens through which we see Tamlin as a better person than he actually is.
Yep. Very much so. And Lucian's always making excuses for his behavior.
Right. And Lucien does show up for her, like in the second part when he comes several times to help her out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he makes more of an effort to try to get her to realize the truth than Tamlin ever does, because he's like, hey, so it would be really bad if you caught this fairy that told you the truth for every question that you asked. And I'm definitely not going to tell you exactly how to go do it so that you should go do it.
Yeah, with the cereal. Yeah. I love the cereal. I don't know why. This isn't a spoiler warning, but that creature shows up, that fae shows up in other books, that fairy.
I figured it would when she saved its life.
Yeah, and I love the cereal. It always is like, she has such an easy time. I think it goes, a story or a theme that pops up a lot is like the fate and the cauldron versus just like, she goes to this thing where she's like, I don't believe in fate. I don't believe in some cauldron. What are you guys talking about? And like, but really like, that's where this is going.
But for real though.
But for real. Like it is kind of fate that you are able to just catch a cereal as this human woman. Like she has all these like special human gifts that she doesn't even realize.
Right.
So it's very much like, I think you were supposed to, you were definitely supposed to go this way. Oh, was there anything distracting or did anything take you out about the book? Or what was something that happened that you were like, ugh, I have a couple things and they're very, very petty.
The only real like issue I had with her writing is every time we catch Feyre up. So we'll have these long periods where nobody actually answers any of Feyre's questions.
It's so annoying.
And then when we do finally have a character, it's literally an exposition dump. It's like 2 paragraphs worth of somebody just talking.
Yeah.
They'll be like, okay, so here's the tea. He couldn't do that because he was told he couldn't, but you had to love him and you had to hate fairies and you had to, instead of it being revealed as like a natural like conversation, it's like, all right, here you go. You ready? I'm about to tell you everything that's going down. And then we move to the next plot point. And then we'll have these long period of time where no one answers her questions again. Yeah. And then at the end of it, we'll get another exposition dump.
Yep. I actually highlighted, I could tell that by my highlighting pattern. I would highlight nothing. And then all of a sudden there would be like, oh, wait, this is where we learn everything we've ever needed to know. And she's withholding like no truth, no truth, no truth, which is really annoying. And it's like they're constantly just bullshitting her. Yeah. And she knows it, but like for chapters at a time. Yeah. And then Miss Alice comes through and is like, well, here's the truth that I can talk about now.
I guess I can finally talk about it.
Because the curse is lifted.
I'm about to spill the tea. Are you ready?
That happens frequently. And when we move through there are actual chapters in books that I'll be like, I really love chapter 54 because it does nothing but that. And you've just been waiting for like 3 books
Yes.
to understand something. And it's
You're
an
like,
entire chapter
"Oh,
of
thank
explaining.
God."
Yeah.
Yes.
I was really tired of not understanding that. And there is something really like stimulating about that. And like,
I don't mind the slow build up, but then I
Sure.
want the reveal to match the writing style
Sure.
of everything we've gotten from
right.
previous chapters.
Right.
It's I'm very deft at working these things in. I'm extremely good at writing dialogue, but I don't want to write 3 chapters where she figures this all out. I just want it out of the way so we can go back and write some more Rysand.
Yeah.
'Cause-
Rysand.
Rysand. Oh, sorry, I've only seen it written down.
I've only seen it and read it. I've only seen, oh wow, I can't even say it. I've only seen it written. Yeah. Yes. Reese. Rysand.
Yeah.
Rysand.
Is it Reese when they shorten it? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Reese. But that's kind of like an orgasm, if you think about it. And so if you think about it as a structure of like foreplay and then an explosion, which she kind of does that with her character.
She does a bit. Wow, thanks. I'm never going to get that imagery out of my mind.
I mean, it's kind of like that. It's like, I think that might be why it's so satisfying. It's because
it
it's
could
like
be.
slow, slow, slow. And she does that with her characters and the way they connect with each other. It's like,
Yes.
we're going to hate each other for 5 to 15 chapters.
And then we're gonna have sex. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this book is so PG-13.
Yeah, it's not.
I remember more sex in this book, more spice, if you will.
Because I got to that and it was a very glossed
It was
over
a
sex scene.
paragraph.
And then I thought, oh God, I recommended Ice Planet Barbarians because I thought we were on the same page. It's not the same page.
Meanwhile, I'm like, wow, this I'm reading Ice Planet or listening to it, and I'm like, wow, this is way more spice than plot or character building. Like, I still like it. It's still great. It's really fun and feels frivolous and light. This book feels, I'm a little bit more attached, of course. There's more of an emotional connection.
There's more character development. So
Right.
I could see that.
Well, without it being, okay, so let's talk about a really important character that we haven't talked about yet, but who happens to be pretty important in the book, Rysand, Reese, if you will, the High Lord of the Night Court.
Yeah, okay, so this guy ticks every single box that like 18 to 38-year-old Rachel was like, yes, yes, please. Like we meet him at that festival at the very beginning, and I was like, oh, this is it. Like this is our final love interest. This is who we're gonna end up with, because he's fucking amazing. I can tell you right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So what? Okay, say more.
So then he shows up a couple of times, right? So he shows up at the festival, and then the next
Cal
day,
and Mai.
yeah, the next day we get the head on a stick,
Yeah.
right? Which okay, we can have our fun, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think we get an explanation for that. That's not him. That was
He's
her,
just taking
an
credit
order.
for it. Yeah.
She ordered him to do it. There's one part in it where I was really like, wait, are you an actual asshole?
When he shows up and he's yelling at Tamlin and they're glamoring her to make sure that he can't see her. That's the next time we see him. And to me, this conversation that he's having with Tamlin is like, I already know you have a human here that you're trying to get to fall in love with you. And I'm testing the waters to see if you're actually going to be able to stick with it this time or if you're going to pussy out like you always do. Because he pushes him until he gets him to grovel. And so I think what he's trying to feel out is like, are you seriously doing this? Like, you've got somebody. They're going to fall in love with you. Do you have what it takes to see this all the way through?
And so you felt early on that he was actually playing the double agent.
Well, at that scene, I wasn't sure.
Sure.
But I did go back after I finished everything and read a couple of his scenes to be like, is that what I'm getting still? Am I still getting asshole in this? And no, I don't think so, because he can read minds.
Right.
And he is in her mind in that scene. So he knows who she is, but he asks her name. And when she gives a false name, he gives that false name to Amarantha.
Right.
So he had every opportunity to give her up, and he doesn't.
Right. And that's really interesting that you said that about, I didn't feel that tension in the exact same way. But I'm actually not able to really go back. But I didn't see it as him pushing him to like follow through. But now that you're saying that, I almost want to go back and read it and see if that shows up for me too. But the one part that feels still to this day, even after reading the whole series, like I don't know why you did that, was when her arm is broken and her bone is hanging out of her body, and he grabs it and twists it.
That's not in this book.
Yes, it is.
Is it?
When she gets her arm broken after the mitten guard worm.
Oh, well, she gets a bone put through her body. Like she falls on a bone and it's pierced through her arm.
Oh, I thought it was her bones sticking out of her body.
No, she had put all those bones upright. Like she broke all those bones in half, and when she jumped.
Yeah, and she used them as stake spears.
Right, she missed her little spot. She missed.
Oh, that
she
makes
didn't
so
quite
much more
land where
sense.
she was supposed to land. And so when a bone went through her arm.
So he was pulling it out.
He was pulling out the bone that was in her.
Okay, that makes so much more sense. I swear. That's one of those moments where it's like, okay, so I've listened to this book twice, but when I was actually reading it, things actually clicked in a way. I was like, oh yeah, that's why you have to look at words sometimes. But I still didn't. I thought he was like twisting her bone to reset it so he could heal it. But
No,
he was
she didn't break
pulling out
it.
a bone.
He just pulled the bone out because she had it in there and it was infected and she couldn't remove it because it hurt too much. Oh. And so he shows up and pulls it out and then heals her arm.
Yeah. Magic man. Always looking out for Farah.
No.
I wonder what his MO is. I know, but
like,
I know,
but you can wonder.
Yeah, you can wonder. It's so funny. When I first read it, I did not hate Tamlin. It took me time.
Took you time to hate
And
Tamlin.
I realized it's probably because
she does a good job with that. She really does.
I think I like toxic guys. I have this inability to see men, not all men. So I like roll my eyes at the mic, of course. But I realized that like now I can see why his like the way he shows up is bare minimum.
Yeah, bare minimum. But at the first part, she does a good job of hitting all of the like. He's strong, but he's also fragile.
He's a beastly man,
and he's willing to take her like swimming in starlight and dance with her and hold her as the sun rises. So she does a very good job of like you can see where he's supposed to feel attractive and he's supposed to feel nice.
Yeah.
And then she does a good job of kind of obfuscating the idea in the second half that he really could have helped her more and he chose not to because it was hard and he can't do things that are hard. Hard is what I'm getting from him, but you definitely get the sense like maybe he was doing it because he didn't want her to know. He didn't want the evil queen to know how much he loved Feyre.
Well, and I totally get that because that makes sense. Like he didn't want her to know, oh, when she's with Rhys, that hurts me the most. Or if she's all the other awful, when the adder, ATTOR, I thought it was ADDER, is like punching her and stuff. Yeah, that totally makes sense.
That's what we're supposed to get from it instead of like.
But actually, he's incapable. He was also. He was actually also just kind of incapable of knowing how to move forward in any way, connect with people.
Right. He's supposed to be kind of a blunt instrument. He can hit things really hard, but he's not the person you go to when you need like manipulation and finesse.
Like Rhys Sand. Like our dog Rhys, our own bro, our boy. Yeah. What was your circling back. Sorry to get beep bop, beep boop beep. Things that took me out of the book. Things that took me out of the fantasy land. And this isn't just this book. I actually see this happen a lot. It's where characters eat nothing but bread and cheese and they're just so fit.
And they're fine.
And they're just so fine. They're like, I just need some wine, bread, and cheese. And I'm like, that is not.
Or she stuffs herself at every meal for 2 months while she's there.
And Sarah J. Maas says that over and over and over and over again. Always sweets. Everybody loves sweets. They eat sweets, say sweets. Sweet, sweet, sweets. Chocolate, chocolate, chocolate. I'm like, that is not what happens to your body. Of course, they're all like, I'm sure the Fae metabolism is hummingbird-like.
Just rolled my eyes. Because aren't all Fae just thin, blonde, long-haired,
Yeah.
pretty?
Golden brown hair, which I still have a hard time picturing what that means. Golden brown. So brown it's gold. It's like, oh,
Maybe
okay.
just like that really dark blonde. But
Maybe, like, yeah.
although somebody describes it as brassy, which I thought was a little rude.
Yeah, because that's like,
The mercenary at the beginning. She's like, I see the other girls over there with that brassy hair of yours.
yeah, that's like orange.
Yeah.
Yeah. What'd you think of her sisters? Nesta. Nesta reminds me so much of my sister.
I had a hard time with the beginning of the book, I think, because I always have a hard time with the like Cinderella character. The one that's like, at the cost of my happiness and my health and my life and my mental health and my mental well-being, I'll fucking take care of you, because somebody a long time ago made me promise I would when I was like 4 years old and I didn't know what I was promising, but I'm still clinging to this because it's like the life raft that I have left of dignity that I've kept for myself. Yeah, I mean, she didn't like her mother, or she didn't have any particular attachment to her mother, so I don't really understand the motivation for giving up everything.
Yeah,
for these two people that at least at the very beginning feel very well. Elaine is Elaine, but at least Nesta feels very ungrateful for everything they're
Nesta's
doing.
tough. It's almost hard. Like, she's really unlikable a lot.
She's less unlikable when she goes back.
Right. And you can
Nesta's
tell she
like,
cares.
Yeah, Nesta's like, I tried to find you.
Yeah, but she's got secret faded human skills too. Like her inability to be phased by magic.
I can see that.
You know? Like,
Yeah.
just like Farah. She's got secret human skills.
Secret human abilities.
Yeah, mutants. Bring them in. But yeah, Nesta is but I really do think that she reminds me of my little sister so much. The like aggressive, stubborn, super emotional, and how that all mixes together. And you're just like, why are you like this? You know, like really tough. Can't let anybody in, but you can tell probably feels more than anybody in the room, but also is really challenging and difficult to talk to.
Yeah.
And hates everyone around her, but is also in charge of everybody.
Look, it's probably harder to be them than it is to be around them.
100%.
Yeah.
That's why I relate.
I mean, I don't know. I felt they were fine. I'm glad we revisited them.
Yeah.
Because if we'd left it just the way it was in the beginning, I would have been like, why are you fighting so hard to go back to these people? They're assholes.
And they let your older sisters let you go out there and just, meanwhile,
do everything. Like, she goes back and the wood isn't chopped, and she's like, can you guys chop this? And they're like, oh, but
you do it so much better.
You do it so much better.
It's
than we
weaponized
do.
incompetence.
And I'm just like, what? And she's like, well, I promised my mother I'd take care of them. Be like, you can reframe that however you want. You can be like, I promised I would take care of them, so I need to teach them to take care of themselves, because what if something happens to me?
Right.
So
that's actual leadership.
In a
Thank
way-
you for bringing that up.
In a way, she fails her promise, because when she leaves, they're helpless.
Yeah.
And she knows it. She's like, they're going to starve to death in a week. So have you really taken care of them? No, because they can't deal without you.
I don't know if you caught this when you went back through it, but I was trying to pay attention to like the win of Farah switching from I hate him to I like him. And it's actually very fast.
It is very fast.
It goes from
She's like, I got to get back home. I got to go home. My family. And he's like, it's fine. I'm taking care of them. And she's like, that's kind of hot.
she's like,
oh, I don't know. And nobody needs me.
Yeah.
And which is what I'm saying. The only thing he does for her is just give her space.
yeah.
He just takes away the things that she needs.
But he also
to do.
doesn't give her things she needs. Like, I mean, I guess he lets her paint. He's still very restrictive with her, though. He won't let her, like, well, I guess he does more. I don't know. He still feels very, like, controlling.
He's not restrictive in that, like, she's stuck there, but he's restrictive in that, like, he doesn't tell her enough about the world around her that she can navigate it. Like, especially when, for the first half of their time together, he literally hides half of his household so that
She
she
thinks
can't
it's just
see
lonely.
them, so that he can't
She
see
sees
them.
them as like little fairy silver glimmers at the side of her face.
Right. And
Can
then
you imagine that would drive you insane?
and then he reveals them, and she's like, people have been watching me this whole time, and he's like, yeah. And he just
He's like, that's why we know everything, because you've been sneaking around. It's like, like, can you imagine? You're just like sneaking around and there's people everywhere, and it's become like this laughing joke in the castle.
Do you know how pissed I would be?
I would be furious.
I'd be so fucking furious. I would walk myself back home. I'd be like, if that's how this is,
Yeah.
I am out.
Yeah. So you've been laughing at me. I have been literally mapping this chateau or what the estate out
Yeah.
while there's people just like swifting and dusting and like looking at me and giggling.
Right.
And the little kids are like popping up everywhere. And yeah.
Yeah. No, I'd be, no, thank you. And she's like, so when I thought I was alone, he's like, yeah, you weren't. And what? Oh my God. Like,
Yeah.
you didn't think I could handle it? You thought you could kidnap me, bring me back here, but I couldn't handle seeing 30% to 50% of your household. You just had to like cover that. And then he made everyone else appear human.
Yeah.
So even Alice appears human.
Bark Lady.
Yeah. But
Which is actually really cool. I don't know. I really like Alice. Alice is a good one.
which brings me back to why Reese is better.
Okay. Let's talk about that some more.
Because he trusts her immediately.
Immediately. Do you notice how, like, Reese is more vulnerable with her in, like, 3 meetings than Tamlin is the entire book?
Tamlin is masked literally and metaphorically.
Correct.
For the vast majority of the novel.
And even then, is still, like, he sees her and just wants to bang her.
Right.
He's still not trying to be like, this has been awful for me. We have to get out of here.
Yeah.
He's like, let's do it right now. Let me get your paint all over me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, Reese immediately trusts her in a situation where he wouldn't really expect him to. They haven't even really met.
Right.
I mean, they talk a little bit at that festival that I only read, so I don't remember how to pronounce it.
Callan Mai.
Callan Mai. So
Yeah.
they talk for like 2 seconds there.
I've only seen it written.
And they have like half a second later where he finds her glamored and he has a chance to use her against Tamlin. And then, like, really, they don't interact again until the trial. And then you find out that he's the only one that bet that she would survive the trial.
Yep.
So he was immediately like, she's got this.
Yep.
And I trust her.
Because he could feel his dark power. His power can feel her super secret human skills, her special set of skills she's got. The end of the book, how did you feel about how it ended?
I mean, where she becomes Fae.
Yeah, that and like just where it cut off. I mean, I guess did it feel like it finished? I guess it feels like it ended.
I was already so mad at Tamlin by the time it ended that when she's riding back into spring, it did not feel like a victory. I was like, you went back to that son of a bitch? I would not go back to that son of a bitch. You stood up there and declared your love. You literally risked your entire life. You literally killed other people to be able to save him. And he was just like,
Yeah, and there's this thing where he doesn't pick up on her actual like Farrah was traumatized, like she was broken,
yeah.
like super shattered, and he just never seems to be able.
He's like, but it's done now. I don't know what.
Yeah, what's wrong?
What's wrong?
What do you mean?
She's like, I had to stab you in the chest.
I had to stab these 2 little
Which,
innocent kids.
why
in the chest.
did we drop so many hints about him having a stone heart if he never intended her to stab him in the chest? That's what I don't get.
Obviously they intended that.
Yeah, because
I don't know.
we lead there a lot. So I haven't read the rest of the books, but it leads me to question whether Tamlin knew more about what Feyre would do in response to what he did than he let on. So he sends her back to the human world. But then when she comes back to save him after she finds out that Claire has been killed or kidnapped or whatever, conveniently, the one servant that she has rapport with is still in the estate.
Right.
I mean,
it's a book. It's a fairy porn book.
The entire household, and it's
Alice. Yeah.
Who Alice is like, let me write it down for you.
But it's probably, I mean, they did make it kind of make sense because her boys are hidden. She's getting collecting stuff. Because she's supposed to go, so she hid.
Right.
She's the only person not under the mountain.
Right.
So, I guess, yeah. I mean, she is kind of motivated.
Yeah. And then she's like, take me to under the mountain. And Alice is like, no. She's like, take me to under the mountain. Alice goes, no. She's like, take me under the mountain.
She's
and
like,
Alice goes,
okay.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Yeah.
That's a lot.
Oh my God, twist my arm, sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of that in all of her books. Like, incredibly stubborn main characters where you're just like, she's just going to yell louder and then you're going to say yes. She's just going to say it more firm.
So she takes her there, specifically warns her about everything that does actually happen to her, like making bargains and drinking fairy wine and whatever.
But she's not allowed to say, yeah, and the whole setup where she's like, they wanted me to hear him talk about having a stone heart. I mean, maybe that didn't break the curse. So it's not like stabbing Tamlin in the stone heart.
Right. It's very specific that the one thing that they alluded to continuously for her was the fact that his heart was made of stone. Without knowing that she was going to go under the mountain or that she was going to make that bargain or that Amarantha was going to set that as her third trial.
Or, yeah, and that she would actually have to... But then it actually didn't do anything. So
right,
then,
it did. It just made sure he didn't die when she stabbed him. That's it. That's that she could be like, yeah, you want me to stab him? I'll stab this bitch. And she stabs him, and then she's like, touche, motherfucker. He's got a stone heart. And that's it. That's the only reason we throw that in there at all.
That's true. That's very true. It's pretty unnecessary.
Right. And if he could have alluded strongly to that, could he have not alluded to maybe other parts of the thing which would actually broken the curse?
Like there actually being a curse?
Yeah.
Like besides calling it a blight, which is a person?
Could he not utter the word curse? Or, I mean, because there's a lot of...
What are some other words for curse? Power spell?
Negative vibes. I don't know.
There are just somebody Horcrux.
Look, there's some bad juju up in here.
Yeah, somebody bad juju does.
Yeah.
Yeah, or just I feel like they could have done some more work around it.
I mean, it's fine. It's well written. I'm not mad at it. I just feel like we could have, but that's part of him being just like he's a blunt instrument character. That's what he is. Yeah. Reese would have figured it out.
Reese is smart. He's also a Scorpio. I know this because I follow a lot of Instagram accounts that draw pictures of these characters.
Oh, okay, nice.
I love them. I just love while I'm reading it or listening to it to scroll through and look at pictures of them that other people have. And there's a lot of Patreons that are really spicy.
Fan art is nice.
Fan art is great. Yeah. I really enjoy it. But some woman went through and gave everybody signs. Some I agreed with. Reese is definitely a Scorpio. It's fine. But some of them I didn't. But it's fine. I mean, we don't have to go there. Let's deep dive. But yeah, he definitely had the ability to... He's just so macro. He could see everything going on. You know, like a general. Yeah. Like he could zoom out and really kind of manipulate everything that was happening. Kind of, in a way. Rhysand. Yeah. Rhysand. Well, he's the character that sees the big picture. Yep. Which is why he's willing to make hard choices. Like, would he have sacrificed Feyre if it would have freed everybody? Probably not. Maybe.
I don't know. He might have. He probably would have told her ahead of time. Like, look, I'm sorry.
But I gotta do this.
Yeah. And to be fair, I think she probably would have sacrificed him if it would have furthered her what she felt was the absolute right path that needed to be taken.
Yeah, she probably would have.
But of course they would have probably been like, look, we're gonna communicate this ahead of time to each other because that's...
Yeah, and then they'd be like, but let's find a way around it.
Yeah. But I think they are much better matched because they are very similar characters. Because they're both the type of character that thinks through something that's going on. Instead of just sitting back and allowing it to happen. Right. And then being like, well... Yeah, and I think Tamlin is that character that trusts a lot in his strength. Like, he's always been the strongest. He's always been the toughest. And so he's like, well, I'll get through it just by being...
tough and strong.
Badass.
Powerful.
Yeah.
Golden light and a beast.
Yeah, a golden
I've
light
got
beast.
Claws and a mane and horns.
And horns and shit. So obviously, I can see my way through this.
I can eat a bogey or a boggy or a bog.
Bogue is how I said it. But
Bogue sounds good to me. Bogey. Is that
A bogey is like a military term for like an unknown whatever.
Yeah. Isn't it also in Harry Potter?
A bogue, a bog, a bogue.
Bogey?
I don't know.
Did you read Harry Potter?
I read like the first 5 books. And then I thought Harry Potter was an asshole and I stopped reading it.
Interesting. That might be a podcast. People want to hear that. I'm not sure how many.
Do they?
I'm not sure how many people
You
would.
probably don't want my strong opinions about Harry Potter.
I mean, I kind of get it though. He was kind of a dick.
Yeah,
he was his dad's son though. His dad was a dick.
Right. And okay, I have a lot to say about Harry Potter, so maybe we should just not talk about that right now.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Circling back, Tamlin was a douchebag. Lucian was great. I feel like kind of stuck. I'm like, I don't really think we can go very much farther without me being like, well, let me tell you.
let me let you know.
Let me tell you how that. Let me tell you how that shows up later. So when I'm talking about the end, there's that part when she's saying goodbye to Rhysand.
Yeah.
And he like looks at her, and he's gonna go do this thing called winnowing. You'll learn that in a later book, but he winnows. That's where they like disappear.
Oh, okay.
It's called winnowing.
It's called winnowing.
Yeah.
I have superior knowledge right now.
Just for like 2 days until you crush the second book.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You know? You're gonna,
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
You really will crush this. Are you reading the second one yet?
No, I haven't started it yet.
Oh, okay, cool. And you haven't looked at any fan art?
No.
So fan art.
I mean, I haven't because I'm trying to
That's excellent because fan art spoiled things for me. So when I was reading the first book, I was like, but I don't understand because I had seen some fan art. Also, there's a cameo by these characters in Throne of Glass. So in the last Throne of Glass book, there's like 8 of those. One of those characters runs into some characters from this universe. So like all her universes are stacked.
Okay.
So
like Brandon Sanderson.
yeah. The cosmos. The
Cosmere.
The cosmere. The cosmos.
The Cosmere.
Cosmos.
Yeah.
Cosmere. So yeah, I think she's gonna do like an endgame type book where it's like everybody, I have this feeling where her storylines will somehow converge. And then you'll get all these characters. And it'll just be like the most satisfying book that's ever happened. And then they'll have to turn it into a Hulu show. And there'll have to be 10 seasons.
Wow, we're just throwing this way out there.
Yeah, well, there is a Hulu show coming of this story.
For this story?
Yeah. And it's the guy that did you read Outlander?
I read the first and second Outlander.
There's a lot of them.
There are.
The shows are great.
The show's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
I liked it.
I like the books.
Some of the later seasons it's just a lot of story. But the guy that did those shows is going to do the show, which I am grateful for because he seems to be able to know how to make it like an adult story versus a like young adult story.
Yeah, this is not a young adult story.
I don't want to see these characters as teenagers, even though Farrah's 19 and Rhys and Tamlin are like 400 and 500 years old, which we've talked about off the pod.
Off the pod.
About how weird that is.
It's a little weird. And
like
it doesn't
like
work the other way around. It doesn't work the other way around. If you had a 19-year-old male character and you had a 400-year-old female character, they'd be like, I'm not fucking dealing with this guy.
Yeah.
Right? It only works if you have the young, experienced, like hardened by life female character.
Yeah.
Who's just happy to have this. Apparently takes 450 years for a man to emotionally mature far enough that they can relate to the battle-hardened 19-year-old female.
That's so real life.
I mean, that's why it works as women reading it. We want these mature male characters, and you can't have a 19-year-old boy be the male character because they're not going to be able to compete.
It will be like a son.
Yeah. It would be like, okay, now we're in love and now I'm cooking for you and shit because you're helpless because you're a 19-year-old boy.
Yeah. 19-year-old boys just want to kill things and bang and spice it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in that, I think I talked about this earlier. We were just talking about it, I think. The end, right? When Rhysand shows back up and he's like, Farrah, I just wanted to say goodbye. And he looks at her and he goes to winnow
Yeah.
with my superior grammar, my vocabulary. And then he like stumbles and trips and looks at her and he's like, the fuck? And then he has to leave.
Yeah.
What was your take on that?
I didn't really have a take on it because I know we're going to cover that probably immediately. So I thought either he had been snatched or something happened to him that was beyond his control.
Interesting.
Because every other time he sort of steps into darkness, and this time he just disappeared.
Yeah. Interesting.
So it felt like something not his power.
Sure. Yeah, that wasn't my take on that.
Okay.
But I'm not going to share my take on it because my take ends up being right.
Oh,
so
nice.
it's fine. You're way smarter than me.
No, it's fine. I'm happy to be surprised.
Yeah, I think you will be. You'll be like, oh, dang. But when that happened and I was reading it, I was like, it was actually one of those things where I was like, oh, I really hope that is this. And then very far later, it ends up being that is this.
Well, we talked about the mating bond, which is
Yeah.
a little Chekhov rifle-y. Like, you know what Chekhov's rifle is.
Nope.
Don't put a rifle on the wall in the first act if you're not going to shoot it in the second act.
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
So we talk a lot about the mating bond.
So smart.
We talk a lot about the mating bond.
Sure.
So, of course, that's going to come up.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about, we have an unnecessary long conversation about fairy procreation and how high fae procreate slowly and other fairies procreate faster. So clearly procreation is going to happen at some point
Sure. Yeah.
in this
That's very
story.
true. Yeah. And she does that a lot. Sarah J. Maas throws things around in places here
Way back.
way back.
We also talked a lot about that eye and the finger bone for it to
Right.
not be significant. Plus it's missing at the end, which is like
Right.
a throwaway line.
Right.
They're like, somehow the eye and bone are missing. Weirdest thing. But
super weird.
this super enchanted
Yeah.
eye and finger bone are like gone or
Yeah,
whatever.
but she does that the orgasm structure again, where you like think about it and then all of a sudden it explodes in your
Bang,
face.
here we go. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's 2 chapters talking about it. Yeah, and it becomes very relevant.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's going to become relevant soon because she's obviously not dead. She can't be dead.
Who?
Amarantha. Your face is telling me she's probably dead. This felt like a Horcrux situation where we had like my soul is bound to some other outside soul. No.
I don't know.
You're like, I'm not going to throw this out there because I don't want to talk about it. Okay, that's fine. That's my like stab for the next book.
Yeah.
Is we have either a similar
Yeah,
bad guy or the
that's
same
a-
bad guy coming back.
Yeah. So, okay, that's a great place to go. And I think a nice place to maybe wrap up. I feel like we've kind of touched on a lot of things, right? Yeah, is there anything else that you feel like that you took from it or you wanted to talk about? Because I feel like we've gone over my entire list. We've gone over all my minutes.
Well, I did think the use with Reese especially. Just going back to Reese because we should always go back to Reese.
Always go
I
back
feel
to
like
Reese.
There's really no reason to ever leave Reese at this point. I did think it was interesting the use of whore to describe him.
Right?
Several times.
Yes.
Tamlin uses it. Several other people use it. And I thought it was a really interesting way of addressing him since it's typically used in a feminine.
Oh, speaking of that, did you notice the talk about male contraceptive?
Yes.
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 Yeah.
That Isaac was on the contraceptive brew.
And that exists throughout all of her universes. It
Yes.
is never the woman's. It's either person's decision to be protective of their bodies and procreation.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I thought the use of whore was really interesting.
Yeah.
And the idea that no man has a non-consensual relationship with a woman. That every sexual encounter for a man is consensual.
That's not true.
No.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know it's not true.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Which is
I'm
why,
like, wait.
why we're immediately assigning him the title of whore. Because
Right.
they're like, well, you're with Amarantha. It's obviously a consensual relationship. Like nobody entertains the idea that he's with her for any other reason than because he wants to be.
Or that there's a power structure. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not talking about the power structure and the way that shows up and that when a really powerful woman who can kill everybody and take your power
Yeah.
and turns everybody's heart to stone says, oh, you have to do this or I'm gonna, yeah.
But he alludes to it to Feyre. He doesn't
Yeah.
specifically state it. But he mentions to her, like, haven't you noticed that I haven't taken advantage of you in that way? Like, I've had plenty of opportunity, but I never have.
And he specifically set it up so that you could tell that he did not.
Right.
Yeah.
And he was like, how do you think I would feel if somebody was doing that to me?
Right.
Wink,
Well,
wink, nudge, nudge. Like, how do you think
Yeah.
I would feel?
Well, and Tamlin's somewhat, he's somewhat reflective about, the slavery thing and like turning humans into slave, and Farrah not feeling like she's like a captive because he feels so much like a captive too. Right. So there is a little, I mean, that is 1 point for Tamlin, but like 10 points for Rhysand. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rhys is what you call a fucking gentleman.
Yes. He's like, I may be dressing you up and playing a role with you.
I may be dressing you like hot shit. Like she's like, I'm just gonna. Yeah. I love looking at pictures of the outfits in these books too. You're like, oh, that dress is fire. Like I want
It's
one.
not even a dress. It's like a scarf.
Yes,
like a
correct.
boot scarf. Yes. Yeah.
It's a very Princess Leia-y outfit. Just
Right.
strips. I guess she has, never mind. She just had like a bra and panties
Yeah, there's no
on.
back.
There's
no,
no-
it's literally around her neck, over her breasts, and belted around her waist.
Yeah. She probably doesn't have any panties on either.
No, she says it. I can feel like the wind on my backside. But he
Yes.
paints her. Like
Correct.
he paints her. So it's like that body paint.
Yeah.
Like in the Sports Illustrated where all those bathing
Yes.
suits are actually painted on.
Yes.
Yes.
It's like latex too. It probably like peels off.
Right.
Well, actually, this comes off. It's probably like fairy paint because it shows up, but then goes back to where it's supposed to be, right?
It does when Tamlin shows up.
Yeah.
And Tamlin, which you're like, okay, this was an interesting thing to include, to allude to the fact that no, he doesn't fix her paint. He puts paint on himself. He takes the paint off Tamlin and he puts paint on himself, but he specifically does not fix her paint. So we know that he can't fake the idea that he's not touching her anywhere else, because even he can't change the paint, or he doesn't change the paint on her. He leaves it smudged, but he makes it look like he's the one who smudged it.
Rhysand.
I know. Like,
This is Rhysand's corner, and
clearly we are fans of Rhys.
yeah, Rhys.
Yeah, as soon as he showed up, I was like, oh, this is...
Yeah, with
Yeah.
your purple sapphire eyes. Yeah. Ooh, that nose flare. That's what you call
She's like,
attracted.
to paint him would have driven me insane.
I know, and you're like, yeah.
You're like,
and,
yeah, whatever.
and they're all like 6'5".
Oh,
7
they're always
feet,
with long hair.
6'5".
Oh, yes.
They all always have giant appendages.
Yes.
Not that this one was like PG-13. That's how you know that Tamlin wasn't right. He
Yeah.
got a paragraph.
He did.
I mean, Tamlin is right in lots of ways.
I'm not saying he's a bad guy. I'm just saying he's not Feyre's guy.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of growing up to do,
Yeah.
clearly. Like or maybe not growing up, but maturing. Like he's just got a lot of introspection, right? And if I was the members
He's
of his
only
court, I'd be a little
400
pissed.
and Rhys is like 500. So I think you really hit on something
100
there
years to, like-
where something really happens to the men in these books, where from 400 to 500, that's where they really gain the self-awareness and the communication and emotional intelligence they need to show up well for a 19-year-old
Yes.
huntress.
And they do mention that they don't even come of age till 75.
Yep.
So
They're
clearly
like 16 at 75.
so they're slow,
Yeah.
So even though they've had
Can
a
you
lot of...
imagine having a baby for like 10
I
years?
would die. I would just die.
I was thinking
That's
about
probably why the other Fae, like the not high Fae,
the fairies.
they can procreate fast and they grow up faster.
Probably.
Because then you can hire a bunch of them to take care of your children.
Yep.
So,
That your children that are little tiny things for 10 years.
yeah. Are you a baby for like 6 years? I would die.
That would be so much work.
It would be so. That's probably why they're like, listen, we're rulers now.
Unless
because
they
we need
become
someone
like
to take care of these
smart
kids.
babies, like Baby Yoda.
That would be
like
worse.
Grogu,
That'd be worse because they're like tiny,
but can't communicate.
can't communicate, and they just cute their way out of everything.
Yeah, like I don't know any children like that. Yeah. Well, I'm really glad that you liked it. I'm really excited because I was thinking like she might not like this book.
I'm ready to get to the second one.
I'm really excited for you to read. Yeah. second one and the third one, and the fourth one, which is a short, like, novella, kind of.
It is.
It's like a Christmas story.
Aw.
So you'll probably get to it, honestly, by Christmas. It's like a little, I think it's called, like, Frost and Starlight or something. And then the fifth book, which is with the narrator changes.
You're like, I can kind of tell who the narrator is just from the, like, I like it when we switch to another point of view character, especially if it's one that I like.
Yeah. Well, and we'll see. We'll see when we get there. If we continue.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to finish this.
Yeah.
We can't put up one episode and then not finish the series.
Okay, cool. I love that idea. I just can't wait. I can't wait to see how your perception and idea of everybody evolves as the characters evolve. And they really do change. I'm excited to pay attention more to, like, really how long they stay a certain way, and then all of a sudden they change.
Yeah, but now that you've described it as an orgasm, I'm literally never going to consider it anything else. I'm just going to be like, oh, here we go.
Here it goes. I'm ready. Yeah, I mean, that is what it feels like a payoff to me. I'm like, oh, this is the exposition chapter. We're going to get every answer we've ever wanted. Almost. And then she almost, like, starts a new story. That was something about this book. It's like, it's been like 3/4 of the book in one place.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden it's
really
like another
is one book, second book, almost.
Kinda,
the
yeah.
second half. And because Feyre's a drastically different character in the second half. I mean, she's the same, but we're seeing more of who she is without because she spent the first half letting go of all of those obligations that really weren't obligations even to start with, let's be honest. So she's letting go of all of that perceived obligation. And then she spent a little bit of time just being Feyre, painting, hanging out, whatever, which is kind of when she falls in love with him, because it's like, I'm finally free. This is the most attractive male person in my vicinity that I feel like I can talk to. So I think I'm in love with him.
He's so nice.
And he's so nice.
I love him so much.
He lets me talk, and he doesn't talk back because he's literally just staring at me like, ugh. I can't remember I don't think the curse required him to be in love with her. She just had to be in love with him.
Yeah, but he did love her in a way that like as a possession almost.
Yeah, like you're cute, like a puppy,
like a puppy
or a kitten.
Yep,
an adorable little thing that he found in the woods and brought home, and he tamed it.
Yeah,
that's exactly how he.
And she loves him. Yeah,
like a Labrador retriever. That's Feyre from the first part, because it's like, no matter what you do to me, I'm here because I love you. I see that you're not helping me, but there's got to be a reason.
Yeah, you won't even look at me or
won't look at me,
steal glances at me so that I know
anything.
Yeah,
literally nothing. So to the point where she thinks he's under a spell.
And he does that thing where it's like, and you catch this in relationships. He's trying to protect her more than he actually cares about how she feels. Like he doesn't see her as a whole person. He's not like considering her feelings and like her existence and like what it feels like to be in a space or what she's going through. He's only trying to protect her.
Yeah.
I mean, and I guess, and I think that's a difference in Rhysand. The Rhysand treats her as a whole person.
And he's immediately vulnerable with her. Like he shows up in her cell and he's like, oh, I'm just tired. I just need to stay here for a minute.
I'm lonely. I'm tired. I need someone to talk to, and you don't know anybody here.
Yeah. And
you don't know shit about me.
She could have thrown him under the bus. It wouldn't have gotten her anything. But just for spite, she could have spilled the beans like, well, he's been showing up in my cell and helping me, and he, whatever. She could have gotten him in serious trouble. But he knows she's not going to.
Yeah. I also want to talk about how fast you read. I know that's really out of nowhere, but I'm you must read really fast because you read these books really fast. It takes me long to read, I think. I really wish that I could be in someone's mind.
I don't know that I read fast. I just read intently. So I will finish a book quickly because that's all I'll do if I'm interested in it.
When? You're a busy person.
I don't know. Anytime I sit down, I'll pull the book out.
Okay. Yeah, maybe.
If I waited till the evening, it'd take me forever.
Can you read and then put your finger on it and let me see how fast it goes?
Right now. Well,
maybe not right now.
Literally, if I don't finish a book in about a week, I'm not going to finish it.
A week, that makes sense. I get that.
But like, I have to stay with it. If I don't, then I'll just leave the book.
Yeah.
And because we're reading it together, I'll finish this series. I don't know that if you left me to my own devices, I'd finish this. I don't normally go past about the third or fourth book on a series.
Really? You think you just lose steam or momentum?
It depends because of the writing style, usually.
You get tired of it.
Like, I love the Dresden Files, and I made it farther in the Dresden Files than anywhere else.
Oh, I'm going to read those.
And I made it all the way to Ghost Story, and I started reading the next one. And his description, he had matured enough as a writer that he had started just elaborately describing things. And it drove me so fucking nuts. I was like,
I don't care.
There's a part where there's a battle scene, and we literally have almost 3 paragraphs describing this drop of blood, like running down this guy's lip and like pooling on the bottom of his lip and then like dripping slowly and then falling and landing on this ice and then splashing and turning. And I was like, I'm going to die. I just like, you can't put me in a momentum situation like a fight scene and then throw me back to this
into bullet
drop
time.
of
It's
blood.
like, it was like bullet time in the Matrix. You just like all of a sudden stop.
I literally put the book down. I was like, and we're finished. Just
And
put the book down.
I'm done.
And I'm done.
Yeah.
And it was great. I loved every other book, but that one part was just like,
yeah.
I couldn't stand it. Do I lose steam? I do the same thing with television shows. If I make it past the 3rd season, I'm doing good, no matter how invested I'm in the storyline.
So I'm kind of like that with TV shows too. I can't binge watch a whole series. Like, I really want to watch The Wire from beginning to end, but I can watch it as it comes out, right? But if there's like 5 seasons of a show, I have a really hard time making it through the whole thing. And I get really obsessive about books. Like, I think we talked about this. I knocked out a chunk of the Cosmere books, a healthy chunk, like a lot of them, thousands of pages. And then I was like, I can't read any more of this. Let me move to fairy porn.
Yeah. And
I need there to be some sex between these characters that love each other a lot.
Yeah, I like Brandon. His writing's really good, but he's very PG.
Yeah. Yes, he is. He doesn't, and he has gotten better at women characters, but you can definitely tell a difference in like The Way of Kings and Mistborn in the amount of, and I think he heard the criticism, took it, and then was like, okay, well, I need actually to have more than one strong
From
female
here, when we
character.
finish all 5 of these, 5.
Yeah.
When we finish all 5 of these, we're going to do the Murderbot series.
Okay.
Have you read the Murderbot series?
No.
Okay. Don't,
I won't.
because we're going to do them.
Okay, I won't read
Unless
them.
you want to read all of them, and we'll just talk about them in a group, because they're novellas.
Oh,
It's novellas and 1 novel.
okay.
But I think you would really identify with Murderbot.
Okay.
And I feel like you need to read Murderbot Diaries.
Why?
Okay, so we're just going to segue here for a minute.
Yeah,
This is a
segue.
plug for Murderbot Diaries. Everybody should read it, because eventually we're going to review it, and then
This
you'll
will
have already
be
read it.
in 12 podcasts from now, in January of 2023.
Because Murderbot it's like the future, but indefinite future, sci-fi. It's a hard
Sure.
sci-fi. And he is what's called a security unit or a sec unit. And it's
Okay.
like a grown construct where he's part machine, part person. But he was never a person. They didn't take a person and make the machine. They literally grow organic parts and create like a construct. And his entire purpose is to act as like security. And so they have like all these strict controls in the robot part of their brain, but they also have an organic part of their brain.
Which has feelings.
Which, well, he would say he doesn't have feelings, but they have what's called a governor unit, and it keeps them like they have to follow orders. They can't sit down on human furniture. It has all these rules that they have to follow. So he hacks his own governor unit and figures out how to stream television shows. And so every time he's just standing there, he's watching TV or reading books.
Wow.
And so he has consumed, by the time you pick up with him, he's like, media would tell you that if a sec unit hacks their governor unit, they're going to become like a rampaging monster. He's like, well, I've watched 14,000 hours of television and I have yet to kill anybody. So I think I'm kind of a failure in that.
Wow.
And it's like,
I wonder what kind of TV he's watching.
it's mostly soap operas.
I was going to say something like gentle.
It's really good. It's really funny because it's this sec unit that everybody just perceives because they all look the same. They're
Yeah.
like a droid.
They're like
kind of.
yeah,
So
like a clone.
well, it's an it. It doesn't like to be gendered.
Oh, okay.
But so
That makes sense.
So Murderbot is.
I respect that.
In fact, he has the opportunity to get a gender,
And
he's like,
it opts out.
he's like, gross. No, like I don't want that.
That doesn't sound fun.
It's really good. The whole series is really
Okay,
good.
I'm down. I love that. That sounds great. And I'll be better about making synopsises.
I think this was good. I think this was a good chat, just
Yeah.
to chat through it. Because, I mean, if you've read the book, you kind of know what happens.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah. I am so excited for you to read the second book. And then, you know how, oh wait, you only read 5 Harry Potter books?
Yeah.
Hate to go back to Harry Potter. But you know how the first book is just like an intro, the second book you're like, Chamber of Secrets. What? That's so weird. It has nothing to do with anything. Like, and then all of a sudden in book 3, Azkaban, you're like, oh my God, this is a real story with a real people. There's really high stakes. Actually, bad things can happen. And you're like, oh, this is a great book. The second book of this is like, it just expedites the story and like you said, broadens the universe. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, that's what all of this stuff was. And you're like, I love this.
Well, good. I'm looking forward to it then.
I hope you like it. If you don't like it, that's okay too.
Well, we'll talk about that then.
Yeah, we will.
Trust me, you'll hear about it if I didn't like it.
Yeah, you'll hear more about male contraceptives. And
I love that for them.
I know. She does that. And you'll notice in the way that like her heroes, male characters, the way that they treat women, the ones that she actually wants you to look up to, you're going to be like, yeah.
So she creates likable male characters.
Yes.
Nice.
Actual likable characters.
Not just, you guys are going to like him, he has a big dick.
Yeah, like Talons and then Rhys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, Tamlin's not dislikable. He's not who you want him to be.
Yeah, he just has 400. He just needs 100
He
more.
just needs to get that 5. He's got to get over that
He
450
needs 100
hump.
more years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. He
doesn't have male role models. He killed them all, or they were all killed.
yeah, it's sad. And he is trying to be a better person. And he does have strong opinions. Oh, that was another thing. Going back, I wanted to talk about the evolution of Farrah's self-esteem, but we can do that in the next one. Because she hates herself. And then all of a sudden...
I think she hates her situation as much as she hates herself. She hates what the situation has made
And then
her.
all of a sudden there's a glimpse of like, I trust myself. And I think there's something really... I think that's one of the reasons... It's relatable, of course, in a way that's like less high fantasy and more like, oh, you're just a woman that feels like you carry too much weight. And
I identified a lot with Farrah.
yeah.
I think there's a lot to identify with in Farrah.
Yeah.
Like the caregiver.
Yes.
The caregiver at the loss of yourself.
Yeah.
Which a lot of women can relate to.
Yeah,
and then
especially
they
moms.
you're finally given a chance to be who you can be. And
Yeah.
even if the guy that's giving you that opportunity isn't the best, at least you get it.
Yeah. And she only paints when she feels like herself.
Yeah.
She cannot paint if she is not feeling like she sees painting as such a reward that when she is not well, she cannot do it. It feels ick.
Right, because she's not tapped into that creative part of
Yeah,
herself. She has to kind of...
It's like a gift. It's almost like flagellation. Is that what that word means?
Well, I think of that as, yes,
Isn't that what that word-
self-flagellating.
You should see me right now. I'm like,
Yes,
doing the
self-flagellating, punishing herself.
yeah,
Yeah, I kind of think of it as stepping in the other room.
flabbergasting, right?
like-
Is that what that word is?
Not flabbergasting. But the way I frame it to myself is like you step into the other room. There's like
Yeah.
a room where you're the caregiver and you're the person that has to be there for everybody and take care of everything for everybody. But all those other parts of you have to leave in the other room.
Yeah, you step into the pod lab.
Right, you step into the pod, which is why we started podcasts.
So you could have some space.
So we could have some space to be creative and
do your thing.
watch movies and talk about my extensive, almost ridiculous knowledge on lots of properties.
Vampires and all things.
Specifically.
Yeah, and you're very analytical and smart.
It didn't escape my notice that Ryzen is the closest to a vampire in this entire novel. And I was immediately like, Rhys.
What do you think your draw to vampires is?
I have, I don't know, I don't know what that one is.
Is it the darkness?
You know what I love? I love the idea that they have to exist in a world. So they have to exist side by side with the very thing that
They have to eat.
They have to eat. So you look like the thing that you have to eat. So that's why I don't like horror vampires, because I don't like the primarily just like, I show up at your town and I'm going to terrorize you till you're all dead. Like, there's no depth to that. There's no interest to that.
Yeah, it's just scary.
I don't really like the romance vampires where we've solved the problem. We get to just...
You're a vegetarian that only eats animals and you glitter in the sun?
Yeah.
It's not your thing?
Oh, no. A Twilight reference.
I know what you are.
Yeah, the eating animals and the drinking, like, I don't know, Red Cross blood or whatever. That's another one that I'm like...
Your blood bags.
Your blood bags.
My blood bags came in.
Every time I see that, I'm like,
So-
out, checked out. I got to be in the middle where it's like, I have one way forward and I have to figure out how to make this work.
Yeah. Did you finish Interview?
I have not yet.
There's one episode left.
I know I have it.
There's just one.
I just haven't. I can't watch
You
that with the kids
should.
on.
Oh,
Kids
sure.
awake, so I
You
have to wait till it's not. They're not
You should
awake.
go watch it. It's only 8:52. Feels like it's midnight, but you should watch the last one. I think you'll like it. Did you read any of those books?
I did
Yeah.
a long time ago.
Yeah. I liked it. I liked it once you were like, you should watch it, I binged the whole thing and thought it was great.
It was good, and I liked what they did with the vampire. I've always liked the idea of Louis. I don't like her execution of Louis in most of where he shows up.
Sure.
But I like where she's going. And I do like that they don't have any... Well, even though Louis does, though, because they can eat animals, which...
It's gross.
There's just a problem with it. But there's a series that's pretty good. And it's like a steampunk vampire novel series called the Greyfriar series. That one's by Clay and Susan Griffiths. And so it's a very like...
By two people?
Yes.
Interesting. I've never read a book by two people.
It's not... It's good.
I'll check it out. I also read, that's witches. That's shadow hunters, sorry.
You're like, not relevant.
Yeah, that's not vampires. I did just Blood and Ash is a like, has some vampire-esque characters in it.
I did read one recently. I'm going to have to look it up on my Kindle thing because I immediately forgot it because it was immediately forgettable. And it was touted as this like, oh, she's a strong female character.
She was just really masculine.
No, she wasn't, but she was just really dumb.
Oh.
And I just really struggled with it.
Yeah.
Battle and Blood.
Battle and Blood.
So I felt like the main vampire guy was a dick. And
no redeemable
and the
qualities?
only like, ooh, guys, it's feminist and cool is that she wasn't skinny. Like that's...
Ugh, get out of here.
And I'm like...
Her one thing? Is
Yeah.
that what she was a size 10?
Yeah. And she's like, well, I'm still fit, even though like my...
I'm a size 10. I'm a size 10.
And that makes me strong and independent. I can't remember my specific problems with it because it
Get
was
out of
really
there.
that just awful, but...
Straight sizes. You know that's what they're called? If you are like a 16 and under, you're a straight size. Meaning like you can go to any store and buy your size. And then there's mid-sized, which is like 16 to like 22. And then there's plus size. I don't know. There's a lot of TikToks about it.
Not on TikTok.
I know. And that's probably why you're so well-spoken and intelligent. Meanwhile, I'm over here like absorbing as much TikTok as possible.
I'm not saying there's not a place for everybody. It's just not my thing.
There's a side of TikTok for everyone.
There's a side of TikTok for everybody. All right. Well, so since we've deviated pretty severely here, but that's fine. We're two chicks talking about books,
Yeah.
which is fine.
It's really okay, I think. You know, there will be a lot of time.
We threw out some good book recommendations.
Yeah, and there's going to be a lot of time to learn, to grow, to tighten up, to really hone our special set of human skills.
Yes, our fated human skills.
Our fated human skills.
Right.
Correct. Yeah.
Which is our ability to stay on topic, apparently.
Yeah, and to have some structure, which is of a structure.
I'm always okay when two podcasters banter. I never mind it.
Me too, especially if wow, that was the high pitch.
Me too.
Me too. Especially when you like them both.
I hope you guys like us.
Oh, you're very likable. I'm just charmingly bubbly, I guess. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. Who knows?
We were on topic. We were talking about books.
We were talking about books.
And they weren't all romance books.
No, we've read lots of books.
Yeah.
I could read better books. Kind of.
No. You just read books. You don't worry about what they are, what they not are, or
Yeah.
whatever.
Should there be a Ice Planet Barbarian?
You mean television show?
No,
A
a podcast.
I feel
of,
like that's done.
three of the books.
It was like a TikTok famous thing, I guess.
Oh, it was? That makes a lot of sense.
So I feel like maybe
People have done it.
It's done.
Okay.
I mean, what plot would we talk about?
Nothing.
Nothing.
We would just talk about...
And then they banged. Okay, and
then they banged some more.
And then they didn't bang for a while, so they all had to masturbate, and then they banged.
Yeah, he gave her a model of his own penis, which they have the nub. That's the best part about them. It's the, what do they call it?
The spur.
The spur. The spur specifically, it's like a little carrot specifically made for a human woman's body.
Yeah.
Ice Planet Barbarians.
Well, I mean, that's why she wrote it, was just to be like, guys, there's people out there that are specifically designed to make sure you enjoy sex.
Yeah.
They're just on another planet.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Oh, there's this thing I've started wanting to do where I want to like write down all the ways that people describe, like all the ways that these writers describe sex and just start like using them.
I used the term velvety tip with Matt the other day, and he goes, "What the fuck?" I said, "You've never heard of it?" He goes, "No."
I like
so
to
then
say,
I was just rattling them off.
or
And
like,
it's like, stop.
Like,
stop.
hey mate, could you bring your sex over here? Or like the little things that they say over and over again, like the descriptions.
I heard lust limb the other day.
Or he sheathed himself in me. Or like I've started like highlighting them. I want to make an entire glossary.
You should, and we should make like a t-shirt line.
Yeah, and just I want to like future partner-esque relationships.
Yes.
Like just wow them with my ability to say smutty things.
Does that language ever appear outside of romance novels? Ever?
I mean, in funny text messages, it could.
Maybe, which is just like women talking to women. So it's out of context for the like Matt being mystified by the idea of the quote velvety tip and the core. Core
I was just
another
about
one
to say
that
core. I was like, literally just about to say. Sorry, I got way close. I was so excited. I was literally about to say, "There's a heartbeat in my core." I squeezed my thighs together because there was a heartbeat in my core.
It just And after a while, member is another one. I'm like, can we not just? Well, I guess penis is maybe not. You know the one that drives me crazy is when they describe it as a cock.
So, but that's okay. Let me say a thing about that though. This is a real thing. Cock and pussy. Sorry. Those are words that actually get used in like sexual conversations and are accepted.
Yes.
But I agree. In a lot of these stories, you're like,
it takes me out. I'm in this romantic situation.
It's almost like too porny.
And the guy's like something about his cock, or the other woman's the pussy or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
See, and I think a lot of people feel the opposite of that. Like those are the words that don't feel so like the core. Please bring your.
They don't feel too soft. Too soft core for that. Like they.
Yeah.
I don't. It's.
Oh, but I found myself. Okay, let me ask you this, and this will be the end of it.
No,
but like,
why would it be?
Watch the table. When you are reading like a spicy scene, if someone was like a fly on the wall watching you, what's your response like to it? Are you just like stone faced? Because I am not.
Oh, I don't have a ton of involuntary facial expression.
I see that about you.
Yeah. So
very controlled.
It's just I have to be on to make a facial expression, which if I'm tired, I won't be, which is why sometimes when I'm tired, I look super deadpan and you can't tell if I'm joking or not. So
and it makes you hysterically ready. And I'm the opposite of that. I cannot not emote. It's just, I can't.
That's fine. That's
and
who
so
you are.
I know, which is why I think I find your sense of humor so incredibly funny to me. Like it's anybody who's ever like soft spoken and just very like sarcastic and subtly funny, I think that's the best sense of humor ever.
Dry. I would describe
very
my
dry.
sense of humor as very dry.
And I think that's hilarious. I'm like, how do you do that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
How do you emote all the time? Would be exhausting.
It's exhausting.
I'm sure.
I'm a fake extrovert. Like
you go home and you're just like, ugh.
Please don't talk to me. Yes. I'm so tired.
Texting somebody smutty things. Oh my God.
Yeah, my core. I feel a heartbeat in my core right now. I'm squeezing my legs together.
Or warmth pooled between her thighs. That's
Yeah,
another
the
one.
warmth in my core. Or the sheath. He sheathed himself inside of me.
Yeah.
In his
Drove
skirt.
himself home. That's
Yeah.
another one. I'm like,
Yeah, I could feel him yeah. I'm going to start making us a little glossary.
yeah, that would be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, do that.
I did read one. Okay, so this is another segue, which we're here.
Yeah,
Hello.
do it.
Why are they always gigantic?
The penises?
Yes.
I don't know. So, okay. This is a topic I wanted to bring up because I think about it a lot of times. Bring up penetrative sex.
Yes.
Like these stories are written for females and women, and like there's a lot of talk about how sex doesn't have to be so penetrative all the time. That penetration is about making babies. It's not necessarily about how women find pleasure, but
Yes.
in a way, it is. Like you have to have a little bit of both things. So many of these like smutty, spicy stories, we do get a lot more foreplay. We get a lot more like, there's a lot of feasting.
Yes, there's a lot of feasting. They always enjoy the flavor.
Always, it tastes like
they always want to taste
honeydew.
you. Always want to taste you.
Honey, dew, lemon,
Honey,
rosemary,
lilacs. Yes,
rosemary
floral.
is a saint for
We're
you.
always floral scented and tasting.
Nobody
yes.
has to be like that.
No.
But it's just to alleviate the anxiety of a woman feeling unclean or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, but all of the sex in a lot of these stories is still super penetration centered.
Yeah. If it's exclusively oral, it's always framed as incomplete.
Correct.
Like he's withholding something.
Yes, I need
because
more.
I don't get the dick.
I need more.
Yes.
I need more. And I think along with that comes this idea that it has to be like a foot long.
Like 6 inches around. I literally read one where the guy had to like prep her. Like he was so big and he was like, I'm just really big and I don't want to hurt you. And I'm like, that doesn't sound fun. That just sounds uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like, can we just have a guy who's medium endowed but knows how to use it? Like, can we go there?
Yeah.
That's fine. Like a guy that's
And then
literally
not have to be a 7 foot tall fairy or barbarian. Like them just be like female gazy. Like the Stanley Tucci's of the world.
Yeah.
Like men that are attractive and don't have to be,
Yeah, like
can be sexy as hell,
I've
but-
literally spent time learning how to use what I have to please my female partners. Like,
Correct.
I have put effort into finding out what women like.
and how to actually make it pleasurable.
Right.
Correct.
Not because my dick is literally so giant that you can't help but have an orgasm.
And you have to have sutures.
yes.
It's what are they called? Stitches.
Yes.
Sutures, stitches. Is that
Both
the same
things.
thing?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to have stitches afterwards because you tore. Because the only other thing that big that ever comes out of your vagina is
It's
a baby.
Yes.
Yeah. I agree all the time. I think about it. I'm like, why does it have to be so? Yeah. But I think a lot of these novels, stories that we're reading were written 5-6 years ago. I feel like the smut will catch up and stop being so like, it's not finished. Right?
Yeah.
Because there's more conversation about that.
Right.
On TikTok.
On TikTok. Oh, okay.
In all the ways. You know what I mean? And just like lots of ways.
Well,
Like,
I think we're discussing it now.
Yeah.
It's not only showing up in romance novels,
Sure.
where it's just romance novelists talking to romance novelists talking to romance novelists, where
Right.
you get this like insular group of people that are all creating this
idea of what
And this-
amazing
in this
sex
language
feels
around
like,
sex, where we
looks like.
have all these consistent
like.
terms that get used from one story to the other that are really ridiculous. Who used them first? But we're all talking to each other, so we all use the same ones over and over again.
Yeah. Especially, They really do.
Yeah.
The feasting.
Don't use the word feasting again, please.
That's what's hard about Thanksgiving. It's like feasting everywhere. Well, I saw I think it was on Reddit. I was reading the ACOTAR Reddit.
r/ACOTAR.
ACOTAR, ACOTAR, A Court of Thorns and Roses. The first book in a series. No, I'm just kidding. They were saying how they can't use the word male. And
Male. Like MALE male.
yeah.
In what?
I think it's this book, Male. Wait, is it this story? Yeah, I think it is. Maybe not the first book, maybe the second book. The word male becomes a like, oh. Sorry, it's Throne of Glass that does
Because
it.
sometimes male ends up in an animal context, like the male of the species or whatever.
Right. So in Throne of Glass and in that series, they use the word male so often to describe just the male in the relationship that it takes on this other meaning and this other kind of context. And this person was saying about like how every time they hear it now, it means something different. So that wasn't a really great way of describing that, but
I get where you're going.
yeah, kind of.
Where you can use a word so much that it ends up losing meaning or changes meaning.
Yeah, or you don't like it. Or
You don't
it's
like it.
cringy.
You're like, would you stop?
Like the word
Yes.
core
Or completely drained
or
of blood,
feasting.
which is my worst vampire trope ever. Completely drained of blood. I want to stab myself in the eye every time somebody uses that in a movie or a book or a TV show. The bodies were completely drained of blood. Motherfucker, you can't completely drain a body of blood.
Yes, you can. In the movie Arachnophobia, when the spider stays in the coffin the entire time, it masticates. That was the first time I ever
Yes,
heard the word.
yeah,
And
but-
it was completely drained of blood.
Right.
But it was like shriveled up skeleton, like prune.
Right, but you exsanguinate at like 40% blood volume. So literally your heart stops beating.
Exsanguinate.
Your heart stops beating when it drops below like 40% blood volume. So if you're relying on blood being moved through the body in order to get a meal, you can't completely drain them of blood because they die before they completely drain of blood.
And then you'd be drinking dead man's blood and you would
or
die.
you'd literally have to pump the heart, or you'd have to gravity the liver. I've thought a lot about this, and I don't
Yeah.
know what that says about me.
It's fine. I think you're just really into it.
So it's just every time they're like,
Well, that's why,
blood.
isn't that why butchers hang the animals up?
yes, because that
The
gravity pulls all the blood.
exsanguinate.
It's exsanguinates. I'm not going to apologize for my vocabulary.
No, please don't. I love it. If I repeat your word, it's because
I also used the word
exsanguinate.
obfuscate earlier. I don't know if you caught
Obfuscate.
that. But anyway.
So I love it. I want to hear more beautiful exsanguinate.
So reeling it back to to A Court of Thorns and Roses, we will be reading the second book.
Yes.
And so as soon as I get that finished and we get a date on the books, we will be re-recording the second episode and we'll release it. And I can promise there will probably be just as much segues,
Banter, penetrative talk. We'll talk.
I feel like it's a conversation that needs to happen, though.
I agree. And I'm going to genuinely start a glossary of all the different ways that these things are described. And we'll just keep note. See if it changes.
I would love to see it change. I would love to see a greater range of sexual experiences.
Yeah, exactly.
Portrayed in these books,
Yeah.
so that we're not.
And it be female. It's just what it's doing. Sorry, she's trying to wrap it up. And I'm really still talking about how penetrative sex is really just uplifting the patriarchy and these ideas of what
Yes.
women have been taught sex should feel like.
Yes.
Which, I mean, I agree. Penetrative sex is great. I mean, I think we all enjoy it. But it's not the powerhouse. These creatures in these books have to have different organs than we do. I genuinely think fairies have like 4 clits inside of their vagina, their vagine, right? Because that's the only way it would
Yeah.
feel that good,
Right.
right? I know.
I did watch a good documentary on Netflix that was talking about the clitoris, and I did not know it was as big as it is.
Yeah, it goes up. It's out.
So-
It's in there.
That was real. I was like, oh, that's okay.
So So backing up, it feels great, but the way that these people enjoy it, like in
It gives
Ice
you
Planet
an
Barbarians?
an unrealistic expectation of what sex is going to look like, and you feel like if you don't achieve what these women are achieving,
then you're not doing it
Then
right.
you're
or
not
their-
doing it
or your
right.
partner's penis isn't that big.
right,
Isn't big enough.
They clearly need to be at least several inches longer and several inches bigger around.
Yeah,
and you need
and-
to dump them and find somebody else.
Right, and you might not ever have an orgasm from a penis inside of you. Maybe never. There are women that don't, right?
Yeah.
So it just doesn't make sense unless they express that these aliens and fairies have different organs.
Which also doesn't seem fair. like, congratulations, your benefit for becoming a high fae
Is that you have 5 clits inside your vagina.
is that you can achieve you can achieve orgasm simply from penetration. So congratulations. It's one of your superpowers now.
One of the benefits of having a quee added to your body.
This isn't the Ice Planet Barbarian
being
podcast.
a modified. Okay, yeah, sorry, I'm taking it too far. Okay, anyways, wrap it up. This was fun. I appreciate you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So once again, I'm Rachel.
And I'm Kate.
Thank you all for joining us on this journey. And we will see you all again soon.
Is it hot in here or is it just me? Tuning in to hear these three chatting about fantasy novels of the spicy variety. Not your average book club, if you know what I mean. Are you happy to see us? Or is that a dagger? It's feast, sheath,